Hey guys, it's Monday. Actually, it's pretty late Monday. It's almost 4 o'clock or 4:15 or so. But I managed to get a nice tarp that fits good over my firewood. What I do is I put water in those bottles, and even though they freeze in the wintertime, they stay frozen. So they're pretty good all winter to hold the tarp down for me. So that's what I do with that. And I took my old neighbor out. The guy that's 82, I bought him lunch, and he usually sits in the truck, but sometimes he gets out. He was walking around a little bit today, which is good for him. So anyway, I picked up some orange paint, and now, you know, if you have a real good eye for color, naturally this thing sits out in the sun, so the paint gets kind of, you know, worn on it. But I painted all along here to get the paint on and the bunk rails, just so that there's no rusting happening. That's all I'm worried about. So that's going to be good for a while. Let that go. It's warm enough today. It's like it's 60 about. Well, not quite 60. It's in the high 50s, but that's good enough to dry this till tonight. They're talking about some rain. I don't know what's going on. Then they said no rain. So anyway, as far as my wood goes, I got beautiful ash wood in here in red oak. We're at 60% relative humidity, which is high, but that's because it's coming out of the wood. 80 degrees inside there because there hasn't been a whole lot of sun shining today. Anyway, that's where we're at so far. I also took the fitting off the backhoe cylinder there that I needed, and just my luck, it's something that they don't stock, so I have to wait 3 or 4 days for it to come in before I can fix it. And then I probably have to get a new hose because the hose end probably won't work with the fitting they're getting me. But anyway, that's all I did today, except I took the dog out twice. And right now I'm ready to go get a bucket of kindling to take into the house in case it gets cool tonight again. But I'm really happy to have things cleaned up and straightened up, and stuff looks pretty good, so it ought to be good for a while. I've got quite a bit of kindling there that I actually want to get use up, so I cut that up in small pieces and I put it into my bucket here. I'm just going to take this in case. I'll put it in the Florida room or our mud room until she tells me it's too cold in the house, and then I'll make a little fire. Okay guys, well, it's Tuesday. I did not put a video up last night because I really didn't have that much information on it. So my job here now is to do a little bit of work on the car. The only thing I need to do is really touch up the rocker panels. There's a spot of rust here and here, but I had already replaced these panels last year. Same thing with the one in the front. I replaced it, but that was about 4 years ago, and it looks like there's a little bit of rust on that, so I'm going to fix it. But right now, what I did here was I made a pattern that I'm going to use for the rocker panel, and this would goes right underneath the door, and that's the shape of the rocker panel underneath. And I'm going to make these, weld it together, and then I want to spray the inside of it good. What happens up here is there's so much dirt and rocks and everything on the road that it gets inside here, packs in, and then, you know, manages to rust. So I'll cut some pieces, shape them, weld them, and then I'm going to go ahead and spray them good on the inside. The outside's not a problem because that's just some primer and paint, but the inside is what I want to do to try and keep the car going a little longer yet. If this car, there's not quite 200,000 miles on this car, and the car has actually done us, you know, well. We have had very little problems with it. I did replace the radiator on it once, and I replaced an alternator. The battery was a different story. I replaced the battery, I think, 3 or 4 times on this car because it just has all that electric junk in it. But anyway, I'll be working on this, like I say. And what I do, if you haven't seen my other videos, I make myself a pattern first, and this will cover the whole rocker panel. And now I'm going to cut 2 bigger ones. And being that I have this cutter, what I can do is, instead of playing around, because the brake I have now is good for 4 foot. So this is a 3-foot sheet of metal. So all I have to basically do is measure what I need, and I need a 5 3/4 inches in order to 5 3/4 in order to get that shape that I have there. So I'm going to cut this, and then I'll bend it. Now I can't use my little brake that I have because it's only 30 inches. So I'm going to try and use that big brake that I got off my neighbor, and hopefully that thing will work good. So I'm going to cut up this 5 3/4 inch piece off of here. Let me just look at it to see if it's looking good. Yeah. And then I should be in good shape here as far as, you know, all I have to do is bend it, and then I'll have the rocker panel parts. Now the very ends of the rocker, like where they end here and at the opposite end, they have to be folded in a little bit. So there's a little bit of hammering to go with that, but the rest of it's pretty simple. So I'll just basically show you what I'm doing. So right now I want to cut this, and then I'll get back. Okay, so these are the 2 pieces that I cut. Really nice cut. Man, oh man, I wish I would have had this thing years ago. Made a nice cut there. So all I have to do is put these in the brake. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to get the brake. The brake's in front of the car over there. I don't know if you can see it there. Yeah, right here. The brake's laying in the front of the car. I'm going to just back the car out and see if I can't use that brake as it is. If I can't, I'm going to have to bolt it to something. I'll just bolt it to my workbench for the time being, just so I have a way to bend these things, because I probably have to bend 4 of them. I don't know what the other side looks like yet. I haven't really looked at it, but just to bend them for this side. So I'll keep you in touch with what I'm doing here. Okay guys, so you can see here's the one that I just bent. So I have to bend 3 more, but it came out nice. And I used that old brake that's over there. The thing is I was thinking I would have to bolt it to the bench, but it's so freaking heavy that you can bend this 16 gauge and you don't have to worry about it getting goofy. I mean, I can't pick it up, so I can bend this stuff pretty easily. So that's a nice piece, that panel there. That'll fit onto the rocker panel over top of the over top of the rocker panel. So I'll just make another one, and then I'll have a whole side. Okay guys, so here's what I have so far. Right here is where the seam is. Now what I did, and I'll show it to you there, I cut back. I'm going to grab my helmet. I cut back slightly on the metal so that I could overlap them in an even looking plane. I'll show you that here in a second. So if you look there, you can see I cut like a notch out of the parts that would be vertical, sort of, on this piece, just so I can show the pieces that are going to face out are covered once I put that together there. Now I have this laying down on this 2x12. This thing is as flat as the floor is, and you know it's going to have to do because I don't have anything bigger to work with. So I'm pulling this tight together, and what I want to do is I want to weld this face here because there's a little bit of welding. I need to tap this down slightly, but I don't want to do a whole lot of tapping to it because I'm liable to mess it up. So what I'm going to do right now is I have it pulled where I need it. I'm going to move this piece of wood out of here a little bit. I just want to put a tack in here. Now, you know, you have to be careful with heat, because when you heat the panel up, especially these thin panels, they want to do things that they shouldn't be doing. Okay, so that looks fairly straight. I would say that what I have here is straight within a 1/16. So I'm not going to really worry about this. I just want to tack the top of this in 2 places. Okay, so that's going to hold that face together pretty nice, and it's straight along the board, and it's touching the top of the 2x12. So I'm not saying that this is perfect. It would be really nice if I had a big steel welding table to work with, but I don't, and I'm just doing the best I can do. So for now, I'm going to leave that cool down a little bit, and then what I'm going to do is I'm going to weld this face that goes down in there, okay? And then I'll finish welding it, I'll tack it to weld it, and then what I want to do is grind it down so I have one piece to work with. Now there's a little bit of hammering required here, because that top piece that flips over is not quite laying down the way I want it to, and then I'm going to have to weld it to the car. Now I could glue it to the car. The guys were talking about using glue. I've actually used that glue, and I can't say that it's bad, because it really does hold, but I am so used to welding stuff and tacking things that I would really rather do it that way. So now this piece should be plenty long enough to fit the car. So like I said, I'm going to just leave it cool down a little bit. I'm going to fit this piece here to this piece on the top a little nicer. It looks good down in here. If there's a weld there, and even if the weld is showing, this is practically under the car. This is the only part you're seeing. The rest of this is under the car. But it would be nice if the whole thing was welded so that, you know, it's going to stay together. And then that'll give me something to really get some good paint on the back of this. The reason I'm not in a big hurry to put this back on there is I ordered some fiberglass body putty. You know, even though I have 4 gallons of the other stuff, I ran out of fiberglass, so I ordered some. And I want to use fiberglass on parts where there might be rust coming through, because it'll help to keep the water from coming through that. So anyway, I'm going to finish tacking this, and then I'm going to shape it a little bit on the top here so I can tack that. I want to finish tacking this and down. Then I'm going to shape this a little bit so it fits nicer. All I have to do is like pull it down slightly. And again, you're not even going to see that. And then I'll weld that. And then I want to grind that welding down, but I want to paint the inside. I want to put some good stuff in there, you know, clean it up good and then paint it so it's going to not rust. So this is basically how you weld sheet metal to keep it from doing a lot of bending. Now you can see it's not rocking or anything there, so that's not bad. Sheet metal does get hotter quicker than, you know, heavier metal. So once this is cooled down here, you know it's going to stay where you put it. So I'm going to just put some beads in between those down this other side, and I'll be in good shape there. Yeah, as far as this top goes, even if I just weld this, I think I'll be good. Yeah. So this won't be a headache here. This is going to be actually pretty easy to put together. And at the 2 ends, there's a little bit of a shape where the fenders come down, and it needs a little bit of metal on there. So I'm going to see what that looks like. I'll probably adjust to that. I could have probably left it on there, you know, some metal on there to play with, but it makes it really hard when you're bending. And then also, guys, with the bender, with the brake that I have here, I had said once before that this one side didn't seal on like it was going down tight enough, and it actually isn't. I had a hard time bending that little 1/4 inch bend on this piece I'm making. The only thing is I'm not in the mood yet to be adjusting that because I want it to sit where in its final resting place before I adjust it, and it needs to be cleaned up. So it's no big deal. I can tap this with a hammer to make it, you know, to make the piece do what I want it to do. But anyway, yeah, we're looking good there, and I'm just going to leave it cool off a little bit until I'm ready to finish welding that, and then I'm going to do some work to the back. I'm happy with the way it came out. I mean, if you think about it, I think I paid, well, the piece itself, I think that big sheet I have might have cost me $40, the sheet of metal. So you figure I'm going to get, what was that piece, one? I'll get another one out of that. So, you know, 3 and 40, you're looking at about $12 for the part. And that's not bad because it's heavier than what you would buy if you were buying these pieces. So, I'm happy with what I have here so far. I'm just going to finish welding that up and I should be in good shape then with this. And then I'm going to paint the back of it with something that's going to keep it from rusting. Okay guys, so I have that piece welded together, and I have it sitting on the thing there because I want to paint it. So I'm going to put some of this Rust-Oleum primer on that first. I really like this stuff, self-etching primer from Rust-Oleum. I think this is the best stuff I've ever seen. I really like it. Now I'm not saying there isn't better, I'm just saying this is the best stuff I've ever used. So I'm going to get this thing shook up here, and then I'm going to spray the inside of that good. Probably put a couple of coats in there. I wiped it out with an aluminum rag, or not an aluminum rag, a denatured alcohol. I'm sorry, denatured alcohol I used to clean the inside of it out. So it's pretty good and clean in there. So I'm just going to spray the whole inside so it has a nice finish on it on the inside. Any welding I'll do, I'll either drill holes or I can butt weld this on this side against the car. So I'm not really worried about how that's going to go either. I just want to get the underside nice and coated so I don't have to worry about it. I think I'm going to use this. Then I'm going to put paint on it. And then I'm going to put some tar-like stuff. What the heck do they call that? Yeah, something like this, like an undercoating over top of the paint once I'm done. So that's going to take about 3 days to be able to get this to that point. But for now, I'm just going to primer this, and then I'll put this somewhere and I'll make another one. Windy. I'm not putting any on the outside, I'm just spraying it underneath there. Okay, now I will have to do some welding to this. Like I said, at both ends I need to put a little extension on there so that I have something to pull underneath where the door is. So, but for now that's going to be fine. I don't care what happens, you know, inside this. As far if it runs a little bit or I have too much paint in it, it's not a big deal because you're not going to see that it's behind everything. But I do want to get a couple coats of stuff on it so that it can, you know, stay nice. Alright, so that has on it what I need. I'm just going to put that away and I'm going to go ahead and cut 2 more pieces, and then I'll make 2 more panels like that, and then it should be in good shape for the opposite side. I had to look at that. I think I did replace a panel last year. I'll look at that and see what I need. Okay guys, so I don't have to do anything here. This rocker panel underneath here, at least that's, I think it's called a rocker panel. I might be wrong about that, but I'm calling it that. But this panel that's underneath the doors and all is solid. There's a little bit of rust on it in a couple places there you can see. I sanded it off, and I'm just going to spray it and paint it. And some of the other rusty spots that are there, I'll sand them off and do what I got to do to get them to look pretty good. But I had finished the back of this thing last year back in here because a car hit her, and I must have done this panel while I was at it, so they're good, so I don't have to do anything to that. But I do want to get this thing back here figured out, how to panel is going to go on that back corner there, and make a piece for that. I want to do that now next. Okay guys, so at the very back here where the rocker panel is going to come across, this would be the panel, and that's what the shape is. And I got that drawing on there by just putting, let me just see what you're seeing, by putting this on here like this. I just made the drawing. So I brought this line over far enough that I have some metal there to work with. So what I have here is this bend is going to be this side of the fender, you know, the inner side. So I'll have to trim that off. But for now we have this so far. So now what I need to do is put a bend in here and bring this back to straight. Okay, and it should be straight on this line. So we just want to put a curve in there. So what I'll do is I'll just hammer that out of there. Because of the U shape there, I can't put it back in the brake. I probably could have made this first and done something with that and then put it back in the brake, but I did this first. This will be the panel coming down, and then I need to sweep this around so that it fits onto here. Okay, so that has to sweep around that curve and come over basically to there, and that's what will get tacked onto the other piece. And then in the back, I'll slip this up through the back here, and I'll be able to weld that on. Or I could even do it on the face, weld it, and then just grind it down and put some body putty over that or fiberglass, and you won't see it. But anyway, that's what I need to do there next, okay, to get that piece that's at the very end. So I'll get back to you. Okay guys, so this is the shape, that black line there is the shape of what I needed, and this is what I made to fit that. Okay, so you can see it's a pretty good fit. Now I have to be able to work that up into there somehow. I may have to trim this down. You know, I could go over the face of it. I don't really want to go over the face because then I'll have to put pretty much body putty on it to get rid of it. So I might just weld, this doesn't get welded to this. This is just a pattern I'm using, but that is the shape of what I needed. So I'm going to be welding this onto one of the big pieces, or the end of the big piece, to fit it in here. But before I do that, I think I might just tack this with two little tacks on here just to hold this while I figure out how I can get this to fit up in here good. There's some dirt and stuff back there. I got to scrape it out a little bit with a screwdriver because you know, trying to get this to fit smooth against there, it's not going to do it with all the dirt that's in there. But anyway, that's what I'm after, just to get that little bit up in there. So we'll see what happens here with it. I'm going to clean that up, sand that off a little bit, and see what I can come up with here. Okay guys, so here's what I did here. I took that piece, now it was pretty long, I actually cut it in half, so there's another piece just like this left. Now this is only the pattern, so what I did was I tacked that on there just to give myself an idea of how this was going to fit, and I slowly worked that in such a way that it would cover here, the face of this, and then over in this hole. So I can clean this piece up better at the bottom. This is already sanded off here, but I can clean it up better at the bottom there, and then weld that in place. And the other thing I want to do is in the back here, let me just show you with a piece of paper. In the back here I want to put a piece actually. Something like this, just to, and then go straight down here where my finger is. Probably like that. Now I'll measure this better and mark it off, but I'm just showing you what I'm going to do here. Something to that effect. Okay, I'm going to fit that in there so that this has a straight piece in the back, so that whatever gets tossed around isn't hitting the very edge of the metal. And then I'll just put a little body putty around this or whatever I have to do to get it to fit good. And that'll be the end of that. So you'll see me then tomorrow putting this onto the other piece, and then I got to check the opposite end and see what that's going to look like down there. But anyway, that's where we're at so far now yet. So it's looking good. It would have been nice to leave a piece of metal on here and hammer that out, but sometimes it's not always easy to do that. It's sometimes easier to just weld it. And I can grind this off, and I can actually weld from the back inside here, grind that off, and you know, you won't even see that. But it's not a big deal, because you know, that's all I'm trying to do is just fit that in there so that I can get this right in here taken care of. Now I gotta trim this off here all along there and get rid of that rusty metal, but this stuff up in here is pretty good yet. I can weld to that with this little edge here. So that's what I'll be doing. Okay guys, so that's it for today, I guess. It's around 3:30 or so. I need to take Bullseye out. Did a little bit. The weather's kind of cool. You can see I have a sweatshirt on here, but let me just back up a little bit. I have a sweatshirt on, but and I need this shirt because it is a little cool, but it's nice weather. It's nice, you know, it's nice and dry. So the only thing I need to do now is just pull the car back in, because I don't want this to get wet. It's supposed to rain tonight again. I wish it wouldn't, but they're saying 90% for tomorrow, so that's definitely rain. And then we'll be able to cut this off. I'll cut this whole thing off and fit the new panel on there nice. Okay guys, hope you are having a good day. No woodwork today. Today body work. But I wanted to tell you that the cutter in there for cutting the pieces worked fantastic. Okay, if it wasn't for this cutter that I fixed up last week and everything, I'd have been in there fooling around trying to make cuts. The good thing about that is when I put the pieces down to actually weld them together, I noticed that they were straight from the start. There was no crooked cutter, you know, trying to match up a cut. So that worked out pretty good. Really happy to have that thing. And it cut the pieces too easily. Alright, have a good one guys. Bye.